How much do you put into like being real versus being funny, or is it all kind of tied up in the same thing to you?
I try to keep them as close together as possible.
Yeah,
And
right.
so you want to be, I want to be me. I want like, I don't want two different characters. I mean, obviously you have your life, your personal life, and there's gonna be lots of like people always ask my wife like, oh, is it just a barrel of laughs all day
Mm,
being with the comedian? And my wife was, no, it's not at all. Like, because we still, have bills and you're still living a life and your daughter still gets upset or throws
mm.
a fit or you get mad at your wife or you get in a fight. And then there's normal times and good times. And so, yeah, sometimes you got to like figure out how to balance that kind of stuff out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but you want to be the same person. Like if you meet me, I want you to meet, like, you're like, oh yeah, it's like, was I different than on stage? You can meet people that were comedians that you're like, oh, they sound different. Like
Right.
that, they don't even like, you wouldn't even recognize them. And, like, so you want to be like Chappelle. I don't know Chappelle really, but like I've been around him and he seems like the dude that's on stage.
Right.
Like it's that guy. Rogan is that guy. Like, they're the same person. When you meet them, it's not, they could be a little more probably, you really got to see it if who's around you. Like, I think if they got a lot of people around that they don't know, that's where people can kind of shut down.
Right. For me, it's like it's like an exaggerated character where I just like I'm gonna be a little bit more little louder, a little more obnoxious about it, whatever it is, but I'm never gonna give you a take that I like don't believe in just because it's like, well, that's the funnier joke.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes. Yeah, well, you can't sell it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
hard to sell a joke that's not true at all. That's where uh like in my act, like if I want to make anything up, then it's got to be what I think those people are thinking. So if something happens, the Olivia joke, if the guy's like Olivia, it's like, well, what's that guy thinking? And so then I make that up in his head. Well, that could be made up, but the truth of it is there. So you got to have the truth there to be like, yeah, that happened. And then you expand it, with that thing. And then you just hope that people, like we were talking about earlier, like you're with fights with wives that you go like, well, I'd imagine everybody's having this same fight, because I realize that you're like, we're not all just this unique unicorn. You're like, we're all going through the same
No,
stuff. That's
absolutely.
what's so that's what I like, the point, like I like to get, like, especially with TV. Like TV can be, when they write shows, it can be such like race related, and you want to go like, it doesn't matter if you're from England or Africa or Australia, you still fight with your wife, you
Mm-hmm.
still have this exact same thing. So why not, like, when you write a show, like, humanize, like, just be like, it doesn't always have to be like, I'm black, or he's white, and that's
Right.
and that's the interaction is from that. Why would it not be like, yeah, man, I was behind a black guy driving, is behind a white guy in traffic, and he honks at him. Doesn't have to be anything. It's like, why not be all just the same? We are the same.
Right.
We're all doing the
Right.
same stuff.
Yeah. I
No
mean,
one's better than anybody.
I learned that with like, I remember thinking that so much of the things happening at home with my life or in general was because I was a Barstool blogger and had this weird like internet notoriety thing going on. And then I would end up talking to like fans that I met along the way or new friends who were, working like selling insurance, who had the same exact experience. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. It doesn't have anything to do with any of that. This is just like who we are as people. Like it doesn't matter where you are, where you're working, like how old it there's commonalities like everywhere. And I think like just being able to pick those things out and realize those things is like half the battle in like doing comedy, really, right? Is like recognizing those moments and being able to put them out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly, like, you just got to be aware and like go, all right, this felt like a very human. Last night I was at something, and a new friend but his wife, like this guy, she goes, look at the guy over there in the blue shorts. And I looked over, and the guy had a boot on his leg, like a cast, and he was
Uh-huh.
wearing a lei, like it was a party. And it was funny to me that the blue shorts is what she did to describe that guy when he's got two very
other distinct things. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like the guy with the cast, or you talking about the guy with the lay, and you're like, and you just pick you're like the blue shorts, and like, but that kind of moment, like, I don't know if I can make that a joke. I mean, maybe. It just happened last night, so I think about it, and I'll try to see if I can put it somewhere. But I did like, it's like that kind of stuff. It's like that was this golf tournament for Tracy Lawrence, country singer, Kid Rock's there. Like, there's a bunch of other stuff going on.
But
that is kind of, but it's like, so you talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that Kid Rock is there. I want, this was a very normal, just, conversation. Like, so maybe I'll talk about that without going, Kid Rock's next to me, and John Daly was there. So, you're like, that doesn't mean anything.
Was that something that you picked up on like right away? Kind of like, to pick out the more obscure thing going on is probably where the better humor is.
Yeah. I mean, I said it to her. I was like, I actually just met this guy's wife. I met both of them. I've known them for an hour.
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I actually been talking to him for an hour, and his wife, I mean, maybe within 10 minutes of her showing up. And I was like, use the blue shorts. Like, but you realize, but she laughed. She was wonderful. She's got a great sense of humor. Like, and she gets that we were all laughing about it. So yeah, I don't know. It's you just, it's like, you can make fun of stuff like that and they don't get mad because it's like, yeah, it's funny. Like,
it's harmless. Yeah. You're not picking on anybody's personality or
anything. It's like, I could
do
this. I would do the same thing. It was just funny that was what she used to describe.
When did you realize that you were like good at picking those kind of things out? When did you realize you were like better than the average guy at comedy, or not even at comedy? Because I guess it starts at such an earlier age. Like, how old were you, if at all, when you were kind of like, oh, I'm making people laugh like more than everybody else here. Like, I'm good at this. I'm good at observing what's going on and turning it into something funny.
I don't know. I don't know if there's an exact point. It's but I do think about that a lot. Like, what makes like a comedian, like, well, what's different? I feel like it's like if someone's a basketball player, it's like obvious, or there's a lot of things that are obvious.
Yes.
And so it's like, I mean, you're in the same boat where it's like, well, what makes us? And is it because we're trying and no one else is trying?
Right.
I mean, which it could be. I don't know. It's like, I mean, I feel like you have to be very self-aware. You have to be you're just kind of very observant, but things can eat you up. And for me, it's never really, I mean, not that it's not big things, but it sometimes can be stuff that's very stupid that doesn't need to be, and I can dwell on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're like, I shouldn't be dwelling on, like last night I was making that joke about that girl with the boob, but like, why, like, what if I got mad at that? Like, what if I, like, and that's all I thought about. If she was very sweet, but if I didn't like her, like if I met someone that I didn't like, I would be like, I would take it like, I hate.
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Why'd you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if there's an exact like time. I'm trying to think if there's ever like being a kid or something, but you just are very aware. You're very conscious of what's going on. You're very like looking at any interaction. You kind of think about the interaction before you get in the interaction. Mm-hmm. So like, I think sometimes if I'm about to talk to someone, I'll think like, how's it going to go? Like, is it going to really be, do I want to have it? Do I not want to have it? Is it going to be awful? And you like overly think about stuff, which is exhausting. It's no
I was going to
fun.
say, that sounds terrible, man. That sounds like you have like, it's like a social anxiety where you're like playing out what might happen in this next interaction, and it might be terrible, and it might be, rather than just letting it unfold.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's no fun, dude.